How's it going, everybody? Thanks for waiting patiently the past couple minutes if you were here. And if you're watching after this is live, like the replay, I'm going to be doing, I'm Brandon, by the way. Hi. I'm going to be facilitating a channel timeless collective reading. So that's for you whenever you see it, as well as probably a full channel mode session as well after that towards the end. And there will be timestamps in the description sometime after this is, available as a replay. And so you can jump ahead that way. Otherwise, I'm going to hang out for a second and say hi to everybody here. And then we'll start in just a couple minutes probably. So how's everybody doing today? It's good to be here live on YouTube. And I know we're kind of converting the live over to YouTube from TikTok pretty much, and we'll see where it goes and what I'm divinely guided to do. Hey, Abundance, Love, Joy, good to see you here. How's it going? Da-da-da. Good evening, CCS 20386. Good to see you here. How's it going? How's it get any better than this? So they would like me to jump in like right now to start. Hey, Stacy, good to see you here. They'd like me to start pretty much right now with the Channel Timeless Collective reading. So they're pretty much just not having me wait, which is fine. So let's see, for anyone newer here, Channel Timeless Collective reading, of course, is supposed to be just for you when you see it, whoever sees it, and it's for the collective viewing this. In case you need that description for anyone maybe newer to this. Hey, K Sparkle, good to see you. Starstruck Dahlia, good to see you as well. How's it get any better than all of this? So, I'm going to flow with the channel messages coming through from my spirit guides, the angels, and source for you. I'm going to be working with my intuition on this just to see like what would be that's going to come through for you. What do you need to hear? What would help you out right now? And may this just be fully for the highest good, and may it do whatever is for the highest good as well, just the whole thing here. So here we go. First thing they're starting with is a butterfly, but there's also a moth. So for my probably millennial crowd or younger, there's a Pokemon showing up for this message as well, Venomoth. And I know some of you love the Pokemon and like the SpongeBob references and all that. Other people just look like a deer in the headlights, like in the one-on-one, channeled intuitive readings I facilitate. If it's like an older kind of person, and old, or it doesn't have to mean old. Sometimes I'll just be like, I have no idea what this dude's talking about, but I know my kid plays Pokemon. So I'm like, okay. But anyways, so it was Venomoth was the one showing up. So let me see what the message is with the butterflies and the moth and the Pokemon here, fully for that skid here. So it's about transformation, and it's about collective transformation. So this whole collective, this is going to sound obvious maybe, but upshifting frequency, pretty much going to a higher dimension. In some ways, I'd like to say metaphorically, but also literally if you look at it etherically, of course. I know there's a lot. Well, let me see what they'd like to say instead of going into my own thing here. So it's kind of like if you have heard about like the 5D thing versus 3D or like ascension. It's kind of like that, but at least for some of you, it's actually going like higher than 5D. It's kind of a misconception if you or others say or think you can only go to like 5D as like a frequency bandwidth you inhabit. A lot of people are actually, well, if they're doing the work, they know what they're about, or they naturally came in here to be that, are actually higher than 5D and hold a higher than 5D frequency in their life. I'm getting you guys are meant to do that. If you don't feel like you're there yet or you're newer to all this, then just know that you can get there. And the universe is working to get you there is what I'm getting. And the energy, yeah, okay, I was going to make a comment that they don't want me to make. So it wasn't a bad comment. It was just something. So know that like that's happening, but also metaphorically, like the dimension of your life is spinning into a new one. That's part of the transformation you're going through as far as any internal shifting you're doing, any even like work you're doing on yourself externally is something I'm hearing, or internally, or just like vibrationally, that's shifting you into this new dimension. What could this look like if they'd like to give an example? The way they're just explaining it is like, hey, like your world's just going to kind of change in a pretty big way during or after this. it's hard to describe the intuitive visual I'm getting, but it's kind of like, yeah, this might not even make sense, but you're kind of like in this box. And I hesitate to say this because I don't want you to like think I'm putting you in a box or think you're in a box in like a negative way, but it like spins and twists and you go through this like tunnel and then you're in this like different shaped, like not box, but like shape, and it's bigger and it's more expansive and it's like unlimited. So you're kind of just like leaving the mold of your old life is part of what I'm getting. And there's going to be a lot of even shut-in shifts and rearrangements, even in the next month or two, that start to shift this. So you're going to probably see this now or have been seeing it, or you're going to see it in a really big way this summer if you're watching this as it's live or soon after it is streamed, or next few months from whenever you see it. And definitely the next 6 months is what I'm getting. For those of you who are maybe moving a little bit slower with this, which isn't bad or wrong, by the way, it doesn't make you lesser than. So let me see what else I'd like to get to with this transformation here. So some of you think that you've gone like as high as you can go in certain regards with like spirituality or like frequency wise, and the angels are like laughing about it. Like they're literally showing me a visual of them like like about that, because it's just not true. And there's actually so much higher to go. And even if you feel like you've got to a really high level, that should be encouraging because it means you haven't hit your zenith. I think, is that the right word? Zenith. It means you have much to look forward to and have things you don't even think are possible for you that are possible for you. So it's actually a really encouraging message to keep going and keep seeing what's possible. And even if you are someone who is or thinks they are, seems to be just like higher than like anyone else on like the frequency scale or with spiritual gifts or whatever, it doesn't mean you can't pioneer and go further if you feel called to, or that's your role. And some of us came here to go really far this lifetime and pioneer and like hit new heights. So don't limit yourself to what's out there already. The world needs new things and higher yet. And people who are willing to go further in consciousness than ever before. And that's part of what at least some of you signed up for. So if that's you, don't stop and don't think you've peaked. Don't like create a limit for yourself where you are right now, or thinking you kind of get what I'm saying. Just don't think you've peaked and ask for more is what I'd say. So they're still on this transformation bit. So let me see what else is going on here. So they're kind of showing things kind of like twisting in a weird way as part of the transformation, not in a negative way or a bad way. But it might be kind of like things are kind of twisted out of your life or like leaving your life, or like you might be guided to walk away from things you never expected you would be, even like really good things. And it doesn't mean break up with your relationship right now if you're not sure, or make a move you're not sure about right now if you're not intuitively guided to. It's more saying like if you are directly guided or realize very strongly, or it's shown to you by the universe, you need to move on from something or walk away from something, like really trust it, even if it doesn't make a lot of cognitive sense right away. It's part of the shift. It's part of that dimensional frequency shift. It's part of a new path that's better is what I'm hearing. And sometimes we're afraid of change because we think it could be worse, or because of destructive things that happened in the past, which I'm getting won't repeat, by the way, for the vast majority of you, or for all of you actually. Like a lot of those things won't repeat. If anything, like it does, it will be much easier to deal with and much lesser than what it was before. It'll be like a molehill instead of a mountain. It'll be like, oh, this is fine. But for most of you, it's not going to happen at all, is the way I'm hearing it. And I know some of you, I feel like I'm picking up on some of you being like nervous or something as I'm saying this, because I know it's like, oh, but what if now he said most? What if I'm the 1%? And I wouldn't worry about it too much, because again, molehill instead of mountain. The other thing though is the change is leading to better and to where you're meant to go. And like spirit wouldn't take things away if it wasn't going to give you something better, If you're a good person, quote unquote, and I don't say quote unquote because it's like, it's more just to help us get out of the judgment of like good and bad, I guess. But you know what I'm trying to say when I say good person, and like you're working for the highest good and you're removing limiting beliefs and you're opening to spirit's path for you, and you're trying to do your best to work for the highest good, or you are working for the highest good, all that stuff. Spirit's not going to like punish you for that, or like just punish you. And Spirit's going to lead you to better. So just keep that in mind with like changes that are happening, things you're guided to walk away from, things that seem to be going well, that seem to be leaving. It's like there's just better. Plain and simple. Next thing they'd like to get to here, we didn't really get to the moth part of this, so I know we've been on this for a second, but bear with me here. What's up with the moth here? The thing that was showing up with the moth and with the Pokemon here was actually about like inner child things, issues leaving. It doesn't matter if you're like 60 years old and you're like have no reference for Pokemon at all. That's what this is representing for the reading for this message, at least. And there are a lot of inner child issues that are just leaving, which is amazing. And this could even be things like abuse from parents, and like that's healing, or you have realizations about the past that allow you to shift out of things really easily that used to stick you 24/7. The other thing that's popping up is relationship issues healing really quickly, especially regarding the inner child. Like anywhere the inner child's been getting in the way of your relationships, that's really shifting, which is a huge win is what I'm getting. So congrats on that. Congrats on any work you've been doing, or if it's just happening naturally, awesome. How's it get any better than that? And sometimes you're doing more work than you realize when you show up for, I'm gonna have to explain this probably. When you show up for certain like spiritual things, or like channeling sessions, for example, like that's moving the energy, that's awakening you further, that's opening your intuition. Or like if you go to sound baths or something like that, you might show up and like, yeah, you feel better, you feel clear, but like maybe you're not even sure what some of those things are doing, but they're actually shifting huge things. And sometimes it's better not to quantify things and like have to get your mind wrapped around them and decide what's happening. Sometimes it's better just to let things shift and realize what it did afterwards, or let your intuition or channeling show you what it did afterwards, instead of like trying to like mentally grasp it and having to what's the best way to describe this here? Instead of trying to mentally have a hold on everything. Does that make sense? And that doesn't mean going crazy. That just means letting things be a bit more amorphous until your knowing lands with it. So I hope that makes sense. But let's move on here. There's a bit more with the moth. So what's up with the moth here too? So some of you think you are a moth, but you are a butterfly. So you think you are this like wretched creature who is despicable, and the universe hates you, and people hate you. This isn't all of you, by the way, maybe like 20% of you. But you're actually this really beautiful thing. And that's like, I hesitate to tell you this, but I'm going to ask them to bring it through in a way that's helpful for you. It's actually like part of why people treat you the way they do sometimes, out of like jealousy, for example, or just weird things. And like maybe people can't handle how beautiful of a person you are, for example. And that could be physically, that could also be like energetically, or how you are as a being, who and what you are, what's the best way to say this here? So if you feel like attacked by people and you think you're awful, you might not be awful at all. What if it's the opposite? It is the question for you. You're gonna have to discern for yourself a little bit here and work with your own intuition on that. But, well, I'd like to stay away from the word but, actually. Can't easily clear the but. What's the best thing to add on to that? Fully for that skin. You're just like actually far more beautiful than you realize. All of you actually, and it's time to see that, and the universe is going to be showing you that somehow in your life. And maybe someone will just come up to you and like say that, and you'll be like, oh wow, like that feels really true. My guides are saying that's true, depending on where you're at with your channeling, yeah. And cool, I guess I'm a really beautiful person. And I feel like that's going to help you own your value and do a bit more in the world that you're supposed to do instead of holding back because you think you're destructive or evil or whatever you're thinking. Those of you turning out to this thinking that. So for the rest of you, if that's not your story of feeling like a moth when you're a butterfly, what's the case for the other group here? You know, maybe you already realize you're beautiful for this other part of the crowd, but you're going to be shown how beautiful you actually are, which is more beautiful. And I'm not talking just physically, by the way. So try not to get wrapped up in like the way this has to show up. I would be open to the way the universe is going to present it to you in the future here, or even right now or soon after. So moving on here, they've been showing me rainbows a lot with these lives and these channeled intuitive like collective readings. And we have got another rainbow here. These rainbows have been showing up a lot here. This one's kind of like a spiral or like a funnel or like a, let me see what the best way to say this is. Like a rainbow tornado or something like that, which is really interesting. Or it's like a funnel. It's, you know, actually it's really interesting. If you look up like what a rainbow actually looks like, I think if you Google it, like the whole thing is almost like a cone. It's just like in nature, we don't see the whole cone. It's really fascinating. But let me see where they're going with this one. So some of you have like given up hope in some way, shape, or form is kind of the way I'm hearing it with life and like even with like what spirit wants or what you think you're supposed to do or what you're supposed to do. I wouldn't give up just yet. I would be patient instead and maybe even ask the question, like if something's not working out, I would ask the question like, okay, what would spirit like me to do instead? Or where is this going instead? Or like what would work out for me? Because maybe you thought or felt like spirit told you to do something like the example I'm hearing is start a YouTube channel and it doesn't seem to be working out. Or maybe they're like, hey, write this book and like you wrote it, or it's like you're getting jammed up in the book. And one, if it's just like not working at all, I would maybe take a break, recollect, see if spirit has any updates for you on that project or thing for those of you who channel or intuit those kind of things, and kind of regroup and try again. Or be patient as you keep churning with it and ask like, okay, what would work? What's the proper timing for this? Am I working on this at the right time, or should I work on something else in the meantime and come back to this? I'd just be seeing, like looking at what else works instead of staying stuck on it, you know? And it doesn't mean there won't be something that will work, because that will come for you, is what I'm getting. There might just be a different way, or maybe you assumed something along the way that like wasn't quite the picture spirit had in mind. You know, for example, maybe a friend comes up to you and they're like, hey, you should write a book. And you're like, yeah, a book's a great idea. This must be a sign from the universe. I'm not saying this totally right, but this must be a sign from the universe. Then you start the book and then you get jammed up. And it's like, well, did you ask spirit, like what topic? Did you, you know, is this the right timing for that book? Is there something else you're supposed to do instead before that? Is there another way you're supposed to get this information out into the world? Like maybe you're supposed to make a course instead. Like I would just double check things if you feel really stuck, or double check the timing on things instead of beating up on yourself and thinking you're wrong and thinking spirit hates you or whatever the heck is going on with that. If that's you, just so you know here. And sometimes we get like redirected with projects. Like we are supposed to start something, then like timeline shift and spirit's like, okay, can that, we're doing something else and it's gonna be better. And I like to give credit where credit's due. Like one thing I heard from Lee Harris that I'm gonna reference now too is like when things shift like that, and Lee Harris is a channeler, by the way, but when things shift like that and we are guided to put a stop on a project, even if we spend like years on it, like the universe banks that for us and will probably put it in place for our next project or something in the future. Like that's not wasted work or efforts. And even like with the timeline shifts thing, like that's again, like I also heard this from Lee Harris, and I've seen this play out for me too, where it's like a timeline shift, spirit's like, hey, stop this thing, no more. And you're like, but, and it's like, it like the message is the message. the replacement comes in very quickly. Like it could be like if you're just like, okay, and you're an allowance of it, or I hesitate to use the word acceptance, but whatever resonates for you is the word, like acceptance. You're just like, okay, okay, I'm open to what would be for the next kid instead. Thanks so much. And like the next thing comes in very quickly. And you might have even been building the building blocks for the next thing all along. And it's just ready to go now, you know, and Spirit's like, well, it's time to stop putting the time into this and put it into this because this will be better and will probably give you all that and then some compared to the other thing you were working on as a project. You know, like for example, one example would be best for me to give here. If you have a book you're writing and Spirit's like, okay, good work. We're putting a hold on that either temporarily or just for however long, or we're just saying no more on that. Make a course instead with that material. And you make a course that does way better or something, you know, like for example, it could show up in a different way as well. And so let's see what they'd like to get to next here. But like the other thing with that is like, don't give up, redirect. So the other thing they're showing me is like that meme or that thing that goes around where someone's like digging with a pickaxe towards diamonds. Oh, there's two people actually. There's one who's digging at the pickaxe towards diamonds and he's like one pickaxe strike away from hitting diamonds or something valuable, gold, whatever. And then he's like walking away because he gave up. And then the other person's like tunneling towards it and they're not going to give up and they're going to get to the diamonds, you know, or the gold or whatever. And don't let that be you where you stop before you get to the gold or the diamonds or the valuable thing or the thing that will work for you, or you get, you know, the breakthrough. You might have to pivot. You might have to do something different, but don't just stop and give up, if that makes sense. It's okay to like regroup and try again. Or I'm also trying to get away from, oh my God, I'd like to get away from the word try as well. There's certain like words I'm working on omitting from my vocabulary, I guess you could say, or what I'm saying, just because of their meanings, and try is one of them. I just like, somewhere I saw that like try is like to attempt something without ever succeeding. So I'm like, okay, what will it take for me to do things and succeed with them instead of try to do things? And how many people, this is a very subtle thing I'm about to speak to, and I'm not saying all of you are doing this, but how many people have you seen or have you noticed this where, I'm just picking up on this energy, where it's like you say try, and it's a way to look like you're giving effort towards something, but maybe you don't actually desire to get there, or you don't actually like desire this thing to change totally yet, or like, so it's like a way to look like to other people you're doing something without actually going all the way. Does that make sense? Or maybe even to yourself. That's going to be a very subtle undertone for maybe like half of you that you've seen before, by the way, just to put it in a quantification. But I'm not saying that's everyone and they're doing it all the time. That's something, ask about that. Like, is that true for me? Have I done that? Does it even matter? What else is possible? What would be better? Just something to, it's just, yeah. Anyways, let's move on. I said what I said, so let's see what they'd like to get to next. So we're back with this rainbow here. So don't give up. Again, you can pivot, but keep metaphorically digging for the diamonds. Keep going towards the gold and towards targets and towards dreams, I guess you could say, if you have that. I'm going to talk to this crowd as, never mind, I'm not going to. So, okay, back to the rainbow. I feel like I've been getting this message a lot recently, and we kind of already talked to it, but I'm getting this message that there's destruction that's leading to greatness. So it's like this rainbow tornado that leaves a path of destruction. And you might have already seen this, but it like leads a perfect path to where you'd like to go in a way. So it's almost like if you picture a video game map, and there's all these walls and obstacles and like enemies, I guess. I'm not saying there's enemies in your real life, but just as a metaphor here to describe this. And then like, there's like no way to get to the objective, let's say. But then like halfway through this game you're playing, this tornado rips through and like destroys all the walls and gets rid of the enemies and, you know, just like paves a path for you to just go straight to the targets, or it's just a lot easier to traverse this terrain. That is kind of what they're saying. So, you know, certain destruction could be working in your favor, even if you're not sure about it at first. It could be like, for example, I'm not like praying for people to lose their jobs and things like that, but let's say, what's the best example I could give here? A boss in a company you're working for loses their job, metaphorically. And you're like, oh no, I liked that boss. And then like the boss above them loses that job. And then like there's like all this pandemonium and stuff that's going on. But then all of a sudden, like you're promoted and like someone even better gets like a role above them and they like you and then they promote you. Like that's like just an example, but weird things like that could show up in a myriad of ways. So don't just like paint destruction as like negative. Be like, where is this leading? Like, what's this creating? What possibilities are arising from this destruction for me? Or it could be questions you could ask, or maybe even ask the question like, what would I like to get out of this? What's possible for me to get out of this that I would like? I don't know. And then it's gonna start to bring that towards you. Next thing they like to get to here, we're back to a moth, but it's a different moth message. So they kind of show me like moth to a flame kind of a thing, or like a bug to a bug zapper here. What's up with this here? It's kind of like there might be things you're drawn to and you're like afraid of those things burning you or ruining you. I wouldn't be actually. I would trust what you're drawn to is the message, at least for the most part here. Like if you got like a gut feeling or an intuition, like, oh, maybe not, like trust your intuition. But for the most part here, if you're like drawn to a modality or like a class or like a video and you're like, I'm not sure why this draws me, but I feel really drawn to it. Like you can kind of trust what you're drawn to right now. And it could be the thing you're looking for, even if it's way different than you expected, is something I'm getting. Like something you're looking for in your life or a change you're looking for or something like that here. Or it could even be like a person for like dating or something like that, but they're different than what you'd normally, go towards as far as someone you're trying to date. So I would consider that as well here. Unless your intuition says no or your spirit guides are like, no. Because sometimes we are drawn to the pretty thing and it's not great, but sometimes we're drawn to the pretty thing and it's really great. So you have to trust your intuition with all that. Let me see, what else would be going to be brought through? They're showing me gold, but also fool's gold, so that doesn't sound fun. But then they're also showing me peacock or bismuth, things like that. So what's going on here? I feel like you're moving away from fool's gold and to things that are actually valuable to you. So if spirit's causing you to, I feel like this is saying the same thing we've said earlier. It's in a similar vein at least, but if you're like leaping away from things or like you're done with things, you just can't do them anymore. Like you might even be saying like, I can't do this anymore. Like I just can't, I thought I loved it, can't do it anymore. Like you're actually leaping away from the things that aren't for you into the things that are or closer to them or onto the road to those things that are for you, but at least for some of you directly to those things. So I would like trust that. And here's a message. If you've been waiting for something to pay off for like 5 years and it really hasn't and has showed no sign of promise, you can probably let that go pretty safely. And like, again, I'm going to ask you to recheck your intuition and recheck with spirit and maybe ask for signs from the universe if that's where you're at and that's what will help you. But I'm talking like no signs of promise. Like you haven't gotten anywhere and maybe it's made your life worse year over year and it's just destructive. Like probably walk away for whoever needs to hear that message. Like if you're in a relationship for like 5 years and you're waiting for someone to shape up their act and they're just getting worse and they just don't like at all, like no signs that it's going to turn around, maybe double check in with I don't think that was the best example. I apologize. What's the best example here? You guys get it. Actually, I'm getting, so I'm not going to waste my time trying to get a million examples across here. So where are we going to next here? So there's at least one more message here before we kind of start to wrap up the reading here. So what else do you guys need to hear that would be helpful? They're showing this slide. It's kind of like a children's slide, like at a playground, of course. It's in this visual, it wasn't anything crazy. So what up with this? I feel like this seems similar to what has been coming through the whole reading almost. Whereas this message of, it's a little bit different though. If something's like just sliding out of your grasp, just let it go. Like if you don't have any control over it, and control kind of gets into a weird territory anyways with like, well, how much is it really for the highest good for us to control things and try to control everything? Maybe a keyword is try once again in that. If something's sliding out of your grasp, there's nothing you can do. Just let it go. It's okay. It's supposed to go is what I'm getting. And that's like a key indicator for you. If you think you're losing something you're not supposed to lose, like you're not. Like you might still be losing it, but it's not like you're losing something you're not supposed to lose. Does that make sense? I know that's tough to hear depending on the circumstance. But again, like we've kind of been saying, like what better thing could be unfolding for you? What higher possibility could be opening up for you? How might this be leading to the actual gold for you or something actually valuable to you? Instead of something that's not going to go anywhere or not really going to be for you, you know? And a lot of you guys get it, which is great here. Okay, so they're showing me a dragon now, and dragons can symbolize a lot of different things. So when they show up for channeled intuitive readings for me, and this one is giving me the word magic. I'm getting the word magic with this one, as well as higher possibility and just like going higher. Because I mean, I know there aren't really like physical dragons. I know there's like Komodo dragons, but like, you know what I'm talking about in the physical reality here, so to speak. And but they're showing this dragon as capable of flying like really high in like a mystical sense, let's say, like in a, even if we just look like vibrationally or mystically or spiritually or consciousness wise, like just soaring like to the upper atmosphere and beyond and going to impossible heights. And that's you, is what I'm getting. And that's a possibility for you. So I would attempt to do that. I would see how high you could go with things in a way that's for the highest good for you. I would also kind of keep in mind, like, and know what your capabilities are right now, but there's no limit to you. And there's no limit to what's possible for you. I know that we're talking about things like, well, what about the things out of our control? What about the things that are leaving? Well, what if that's actually for the highest good and like a higher part of you getting rid of things that are in the way of the best possibilities for you, you know, which I don't think I phrased that in the best way because it doesn't feel totally, that's true for most of you, but I don't feel like that's true for all of you. But keep that in mind as an idea maybe, because it's like, what are we getting to? Just know you can go really high, not, you know, and I mean that etherically, not in like a drugs way. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it in a drugs way. And that's actually where you're going, where spirit is working to get you to go, and that's where you're meant to go. So kind of circling back to one of the first messages about going to higher dimensions and going to higher possibilities and going as far as, you know, you can go to pioneering like new levels even, maybe of consciousness or regarding magic or regarding what's possible on earth spiritually, energetically, consciousness-wise, etc., manifestation-wise. Like there's a lot of ways this could show up healing-wise. Again, that's needed. You're meant to do it and trust that you can, and that's coming in for you because it's kind of like this dragon's coming in to lift you up really high, and that's part of what this reading is saying, which is cool. But the other message, your magic's expanding. If you've been getting messages like that before, it's just happening again, which is great, honestly. I'm always willing for more magic to show up for me, of course, in a way that's for the highest good. And there's no harm in inviting that in because there is, what if there's infinite and unlimited magic available to each and every one of us? And that can show up on this earth, even if you've never seen it before. And if you're someone who's listening to this going like, yeah, magic, blah, 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 blah. What if you're limiting the amount of magic that shows up for you by doing that? Or what if you're actually someone who's really meant for magic and the universe is going to make you eat those words in the best ways? You might have some egg on your face if that's you in, you know, a couple of years or 10 years or however long, probably sooner than 10 years, but not calling you out, but maybe I kind of am, but it's not like a bad thing. So whatever. Okay, so they're kind of done with that reading. I hope that helped, resonated, whatever is your eyes good with that. Uh, Maybe it was a bit meandering, maybe it wasn't, but I just hope that helped for what you're going through right now, what you need to hear right now, and things will get better. We're kind of in a weird time on Earth. Like, a lot's moving around. A lot of people are going through some stuff. Like, there's such a rise of like consciousness and high vibrations and like lights, and not everybody on Earth is ready for that, but they're kind of being forced through it because they have to stay on Earth, in a sense, is something I'm kind of hearing. I'm not saying this perfect. What's the best way to say this? That's like partially true. So what's the full truth here? You know, there might be people here on Earth right now that'll never be ready, and they'll go at the right time for them. But we're kind of in this unstoppable march and rise of consciousness on the planet, which is kind of why you might see so much like darkness purging or having its death throes and death rattles and things like that. Like, if you need to hear this, the light has already won, is something they're saying. Like, the light was always destined to win. And in some ways, we are living in a time where the light has already won. Just people have yet to realize that, as far as like higher consciousness winning on the planet and things becoming more sustainable for the earth, even. And things we wouldn't like to see on the earth leaving. And by things we wouldn't like to see on the earth, I mean more like, I hesitate to say like negative energies, because I'm kind of getting to this interesting place with it as I just check in more and sit with it more and get more messages on it. Like, well, what if negative energies don't really exist? And I'm actually being guided to talk about this. I know I'm segueing a bit, but it's fine because they're telling me to talk about it. Where I've been like just getting a lot more clarity on things lately, and there were times in my life where a lot of fear-based beliefs or things were like shown to me by other people, especially maybe earlier in my journey. And I wouldn't say I bought all of those as true or anything like that, but you know how, I mean, maybe things can start to wear on certain people after a while when it's constantly like, well, maybe they're dating someone with a lot of weird spiritual fear-based beliefs or things like that. And the more I've sat with it, the more I got, like, I actually got recently, like, negative energies don't actually exist. I'm like, oh, wait a second. That kind of puts the kibosh on a lot of things people who are trying to talk about spirituality say, you know? And I'm like, very interesting. And like, I was having this conversation, and something I got, but it was also something someone else said that they got recently. And I've heard it from other places. It's like, well, a lot of the negative energies or weird stuff, like, you know, the weird fear-based stuff people talk about, like, a lot of that's self-created by people. It's not actually like what's true or what's supposed to be there or what's actually like meant to exist in the universe, so to speak. And it gets into a weird territory, because it's like, well, if it's there, like, does that really mean it's not meant to exist? It's like, yeah, we're kind of in this weird iffy range at that point where it's kind of on the fence. But I would let you know, based on what I'm getting right now, and I've got to recently, that a lot of the weird negative stuff out there is self-created by people. It's not actually true per se. And you might have to sit with that one if it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I know that's going to like trigger the F out of maybe some people who find this. I'm getting yes. And that's fine. But that's okay. Like, I'm not going to shy away from saying something that is true, that I'm getting is true, or that's good to be said. Like, it doesn't matter if it triggers someone, you know, in a sense. Like, I'm not going to avoid that for other people's beliefs or thoughts or feelings, you know, or whatever. So just maybe keep that in mind. And maybe if you're not sure about that, like, oh, is that true? Universe, could you show me if that's true? Universe, show me what is actually true at the highest and best levels. Thanks. And just see what shows up for you. So just an interesting thing I thought I'd talk about here. So I'm going to go into a full channel mode session here for just the next part of this live. So hello to anybody who showed up and said hi. So Shannon Brown, while I was in the middle of facilitating that channeled timeless collective reading. Yeah. So full channel mode session, I'll have like benefits on like full channel mode sessions and channeling and like what you get out of it, I guess, when you show up for these in the description, or at least like a starting place for understanding it. And you'll know as we get started. I guess I might describe it anyways, but you get the message, of course, and what my spirit guides, the angels, and source would like to say. You get also the energetic transmission. That's a bit like an energy healing session, or it can create shifts and changes and do a lot of really cool stuff for the highest good. I would like to be free from limiting it, because but that's a thing. And then there's also, it opens your own third eye and intuition, and it can open your own channeling if you're meant to channel as well. And it can do more, but that's a starting place for like things you might get out of imbibing or encountering channeled material, I guess you could say. So, excuse me. So they'd like me to give them 2 seconds. So I'm going to drink some water first. And one thing they might get into the topic of money with this, is something they're saying. It might go further into the topic of transformation based on what they're saying as well. I just channeled a bit yesterday for the membership, the membership live on like transformation. I'm just gonna drink more water because my throat's all like. Okay, they'd like me to start. They're actually showing me like a centipede before I get started, which can symbolize good luck. Is one of the meanings, and I don't personally prefer physical centipedes around me, but I love good luck. So okay, they're ready to start. So fully for the highest good, let's see what would be for the highest good to come through for you today, and what would be for the highest good for the channel to do for you today with this full channel mode session. Give us one moment to work through this body and through the energy fields we need to work through to get this to sit just right for you who are showing up for this, whether here now or in the future. For there's no wrong time to encounter this. You are getting the energies you need from this, the messages you need at the right time. That is part of the magic of these lives, of this timeless work, and of this channeled material. And there's a lot of magic to channeling, a lot of magic to energy healing, to manifestation, and all of the higher things, you could say, that you could gravitate towards on Earth. And by higher, we mean more etheric, higher vibrational, and more you. For the true you is high up in the etheric, yes, embodied with you too, but it extends to source and includes source. Source is your highest self. So you are magic, you are manifestation, and in some ways you are channeling if you channel. This does not mean your ego gets in the way, and it is your ego that is these things. For the ego is a part of the human design, you could say, that allows you to have the experience you have. If you are not sure what to do with your ego based on the spiritual teachings of others, just ask that your ego is brought to just the right levels for you, so you can allow your magic through, so you can allow your highest self through. Just ask that your ego is stepped out of the way and brought to the levels that are just right for you. And for most of you, that will mean less ego, and you can walk that path to less ego with ease and grace. Just ask for that. Universe, please help me get to less ego, or to the amount of ego that would be just right for me, with ease and grace. You could set that intention. You can ask, what would it take for that to show up with ease and grace? And you will go on the journey, or energetically, it will just occur, so that becomes the case. Now, as you become more what you are, which is your highest self, which is magic, which is things like instant manifestation, which is things like ease, joy, abundance, gratitude, and higher frequencies, that's where your life becomes light and lighter. That's where your life becomes more ease. For there's a lot of drama and trauma that's sold to you as entertainment, or that's sold to you as the way to be, or that's sold to you as the way you are meant to be. Think of all your programming on television. Think of how much drama and trauma is there. And in some ways, you're taught to aspire to it. In some ways, you're taught that's the way to be. Not always. But is that the true you? No, that's human programming, or that's societal programming. So are you willing to let go of the drama and trauma to have ease? And that does not mean you can't watch TV or watch shows or enjoy them or play video games. For it all belongs on earth in a sense if it's here. We are not judging these things. In fact, we can't judge things. Humans judge things. But we actually see things as they are, much like your highest self and your intuition, when you hone that in and come from that. However, you can still enjoy those things like television without becoming like them and without succumbing to the programming. But you'll have to balance them with the true you. And with doing the things that bring you to the true you, and with allowing the true you into your life and into your body and being. In part, we tell you this because you're meant for magic. You're meant for the higher realms. You're meant to bring your highest self to earth, to embody that more, to change the collective that way. And to live in magic and ease to the point that it infects everything else and those around you and begins to transform everything and you. For as you become a conduit of the magic you are and the highest self you are, you infect everything, as we said. You begin to turn everything around you into magic. You begin to turn the world into magic. And you are the world in a sense, as above, so below. As many of the spiritual teachings on your planet have said. So again, what do you think occurs as you become magic in your body, with your body, through your body? So get a sense of the true you. You can ask Source, what would it be like if I were the true me, fully? And get the energy of that. Get the energy of the true you, get the energy of what it's like for you to be the true you, and sit in that. It will feel far better than most of your life has. We will tell you that right now. It will feel like ease, joy, abundance, magnetism. Will feel orgasmic to some of you. Some of you think that's wrong. What if that is a truth of life and the universe? That's orgasmic in nature. What if that's meant to be there? What if that's a strong part of you? What if that's a super strength? What if you allowed it in more? And we realize the shame button starts to get pushed. That's not yours. That's something you were programmed with. That's something that doesn't belong with the true you. That's something you don't need. Let's get back to you getting the energy of your true self and sitting in that. What energies do you pick up on? And please don't judge it as wrong. Just allow it. We would advise you to sit in this energy, the energy of the true you, once a day for about 5 minutes or more for a month, and see how your world shifts. For you will be magnetizing things that align with the true you the more you get in that energy and sit with it. And you will be aligning with the true you, and you will be embodying it more. And in addition to that, you can use the mantra, the intention, the request, the demand, the ask. I ask to be the true me. For you see how amazing that energy felt. Ask to be it. You're allowed to. And it doesn't matter if no one else on earth is willing to be their true selves. It doesn't matter if they are unwilling to be the amazing energy that they are. You be it anyways, and you be the example, and that will change them. It is not your job to please everyone or to appease them. It is not your job to stay small. Again, that is human programming. That is ego. Walking on eggshells, that is ego. That is not the true you. And anyone who tries to guilt you out of being as large as you are, out of being the true you, they are the one with the problem, not you. And those might be the people you wish to shy away from now on. And again, you being the true you, that will magnetize the things that are for the true you and that belong with the true you. And it may push away the things that do not belong with the true you. And most of you would be overjoyed if you knew what that meant. Fully. You would not be afraid, just so you know. Just to get that out of the way. So are you willing to be the magic you are, the light you are, the consciousness you are, the source you are, the truth you are? And are you willing to be that energy in the world? And you don't have to tell anyone, just be it. The right people will pick up on it. The ones who don't belong will shy away from it, and you will be better for it. All of this has been designed to get you to shift into magic and into higher connection. You may return to this channel anytime you need a boost to being your highest self, and anytime you need help with accessing the energy of you. We are going to sign out for now, and we are wishing you a beautiful, magical journey and a beautiful, magical life. So, abundant beings, farewell for now, and we will see you later. Farewell. The train is always on cue. Heck yeah. Always synchronistic. Thanks, universe. Thanks, train. Is your username a cornbread? Because I love that. That's funny. But anyways, I hope that was helpful and did whatever was for the highest good for it to do for you and that you enjoyed that. It shifted things for the highest good. Ooh. I might hang out for a second, but we're pretty much done with the full channel, with the channel Timeless collective reading. But it was canceled really clear the butt. It was great to get to channel for you and to facilitate the reading for you. And I am wishing you well. In addition to my spirit team wishing you well and Source wishing you well. And you're so welcome, K Sparkle. You're so welcome. I hope you guys, I'm sure it's not too much different than the lives on TikTok, but I hope you guys are enjoying these lives on YouTube or the replay if you're watching the replay. That was very good. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know, Stacy. You're so welcome. How's it get any better than that? That was fabulous. Thank you, Abundance Love Joy. You are welcome. And they say you're welcome too. I always hear like a little like, you're welcome. When people say thank you to Brandon and team. When I'm supposed to let you know that they say you're welcome, at least. It reminds me of the SpongeBob episode where SpongeBob goes in the, not all of you are going to get this reference, but they go out down into like the trench and then like, they have to speak the language so that the people down in the trench understand. They have to go like in between every word. And so as SpongeBob like finds a way out because someone helps him, he's like, thank you. And then the guy just says, you're welcome. And he's just like, but yeah, it's funny. Not that I had to explain all that to you guys. Thanks, Tawny. I appreciate that a lot. All right, guys, I'm going to close the live. So awesome to channel for you. How's it get any better than this? How's it get any better than everything so far? What else is possible? And what will it take for each of us to have the best lives each of us possibly can? And I don't mean lives online. I mean the life we're living, each respectively. The lives each of us are living respectively. Yeah, you get what I mean. So you're welcome, Teresa. All right, guys, I guess I'm signing off for now. So you guys take care, okay? Have a great evening.